moment for that to pop on.
There we go. Welcome to S.A.S.S, everybody. I just so you know, I am burning the very last bit of this resin incense that I made a couple years ago that I absolutely love and did not write the formula down in my book of shadows. So that's a fun little witch's lesson right out of the gate. Write down your formulas because I'm going to really try to replicate that because like I said, it's been my favorite for like a couple of years. Okay, so we need to think about announcements so that Akasha can work her wizardry and pop them into the newsletter at the end of the week. Um, as always, there's always a lot going on, and the best way to stay up to date as far as the workshops and the clubs and the all of the other things that we have happening at the resource center is the calendar function on the website. We try really hard to keep that very updated and
Yeah.
current so that you guys have access to all of that information when you need it.
You can use that
Um,
if you want. Okay.
can we get muted? Somebody's not muted.
Okay, I just hit the mute all button, so thank you.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back just because of the recording uh, issues. So the best way to stay current on any workshops, clubs, any events that are happening at the resource center is through the calendar function on the website. And rather than list all of the things that are happening, I'm going to continue to just encourage you guys to use that tool because all of the information is there. And the only thing that I can think of right off of the top of my head is the Witchwork Circle that is going to be on Friday, on the 21st, and that's where we gather together as a community and do the spellcraft that we have for the month. And this month we're making um, a pre-ritual body scrub out of salts. And it's going, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about all of them, but the transition that we're making with the Witchwork Circle is that the members of the Spellcrafters Guild are going to start co-facilitating the Witchwork Circle. So they are going to be learning how to help lead a group of witches through ritual and how to hold that sacred space for magical practitioners. So this is really exciting. I'm thrilled about this transition. It helps um, to further embody our collaborative structure rather than there being a person at the top telling everybody what to do. We support each other. And as we are transitioning from kind of me showing so many people how to do things, there's a very talented group of witches that have come up through the foundations program and through the resource center that are now at the point where they're stepping into their calling and able to again help embody that the fact that we all kind of teach each other. So I am continuing to kind of step back into my real calling, which is in support of a community. I am not a leader. We have no leader at the resource center. And so that's exciting. Lots of transitions in that way. With again all of this as, oh, I don't know how do I say it? We are with this transition to having an even more like flat operating structure with the resource center, we are doing having lots and lots and lots of meetings behind the scenes. So if we are quiet in the community, that's what's going on is everybody that has stepped forward and said, hey, I really want to participate or be a part of the decision making at the resource center, or be a part of the planning or organizing of all of the things that we do. We're starting to form committees. We're starting to give a place for that to happen. And that takes lots of planning and lots of meetings to get to where we can do more like planning and meetings. It's all wonderful things. I am still on the lookout for a nonprofit attorney specifically to help kind of guide me through the process of pretty much turning the resource center back to the community that we serve. So as soon as that ball kind of starts getting rolling, I'll let you guys know as well. All of this is very exciting. All of this is very amazing. Um, is there anything that I'm forgetting, Maria? Can you think of anything? Can
I
anyone
think
think of
that,
anything that I'm forgetting? I think that's it. All
yeah,
right. We're hoping that more witches are going to be called forward to also create content and that we can have on our website and on our various social media channels to again further reflect the heart of our community, which is a lot more diverse than this. So you guys are amazing. Uh, life is great. Spring has finally arrived in Alaska, and I can say that with confidence. And I'm very excited. Yes, we had like 5 inches of snow like 3 days ago, but I just saw that there is a whole 50-degree day coming up on Wednesday. We're going to hit 50 degrees for the first time in like, I don't know, since October. And yesterday I was able to sit outside. I have this like covered area outside. Um, I was able to sit there and actually I could smell the warmth of the heat against the cedar shingles on my house. And that's like, you don't think about those things until you're like, holy shit. Because when it's cold, you don't really smell that much outside. Like it's this whole thing. And I haven't like been able to feel the actual warmth of the sun on my skin. In Alaska, I did when I went to Salem, Massachusetts last week. I got to feel it. But home in Alaska, to feel the sun on my skin, man, it's so cool. It's so great. It changes everything. And with all of that, uh, like this is my birthday month, and so I start I do a lot of like planning and reassessing and like thinking and turning inward right around my birthday every year. And I wanted to ask you guys like what do you do for your like birthday? What does your birthday mean to you? And how do you like celebrate or acknowledge your own birthday, or do you celebrate or acknowledge your own birthday? And the reason I ask this is like it was only up until like 3 or 4 years ago that I changed my idea around birthdays in general, or my birthday. I like started to it used to be that, you know, I always thought that birthdays were a time for others to celebrate, how much they care about me, and how much I mean to them, right? And so when birthdays would come around and like I didn't have a friend circle, or I life was busy as it is in the springtime, and those that I cared about like forgot, like it wasn't a thing. And it was just this source of deep pain every year. And it was like every year I was reminded of how much I was alone and how much like those that I was around didn't really care about me. So it was this like almost like this tool of torture in a way. And when I started to really look at my relationship with like my internal system and my physical body specifically, and I started celebrating my birthday as the day that my union began with my body, my physical body. It was the day that we chose to have this human experience, and using my birthday as the day to celebrate our accomplishments together and the things that we learned over the course of this last year, and decide how we want to go around our, how we want to navigate our next trip around the sun. And I started to bake myself a birthday cake and bake myself the ultimate birthday cake. And like my ultimate birthday cake is a cheesecake stacked on top of a very dense, rich chocolate cake with what is it? German chocolate cake frosting. What is that called? That coconutty frosting, and pie cherries on top. Like that is my favorite birthday cake in the whole world. And I know that it's way over the top, but I'm a Taurus and I kind of have to. And it's, if you haven't tried it, it's actually really amazing. Anyway, so I'd bake myself this extravagant birthday cake and share it with whoever wanted to share in this celebration of my birth. So um, that changed the way that I interacted with myself and the way I navigated my birthday from here on out. 10/10 recommend. But I wanted to hear, if does anybody else, like, what do you think about birthdays and how do you like navigate that? Hi, Beth Ann.
Sorry, hold on one second. I'm getting my son some shampoo. He's in the back. So about 12 years ago, I started, I turned my birthday into like you said, my day. So I do all of the self-care stuff. I schedule a massage, which is something I don't do a lot for myself, but I'll go get a haircut. I'll go get a massage. I'll get my nails done, like all things that I'm a Pisces, so like I'm a giver, so I don't do a lot for myself, and I take on a lot of other people's stuff to because that's how I feel like I help. um, so but on my birthday I take the day off of work. I don't talk to anybody else. I buy myself flowers. I get myself my favorite cake or make my favorite cake, and I sleep in. So it's totally a day of like just self-care and pampering and like resetting, because like I said, it's something I don't do very often. So I have for the past 12 years made that my day, and nobody else gets to mess with it. No one gets to do anything. I will not. My friends and I have a thing where we will ask each other if we have space to handle something emotional that we need to talk about before we talk about it. And so the night before, I would be like, tomorrow is my birthday. I do not have space, but I will definitely help you on the 2nd of March, but not on the 1st. It's my day. So I really set that boundary and carve it out for myself. And it's been really amazing to have that, especially with the beginning of spring, and kind of have that whole renewal thing for myself. And at first I felt really selfish, but 12 years in, I'm like, yeah, this is empowering. This is good for me. Um, and so for my friends, I will do the same thing. Like on their birthdays, I will send them, I won't call them, but I will send them a gift that is all about self-care. And, even if that's like, I'll send them a coffee or breakfast and some flowers and tell them like, take care of yourself today. Today's all about you. Um, so I think birthdays are really an important anniversary for all of us.
Thank you. That was great.
Sky is next.
So most of my life I felt the same way as you, Jen. Like it was like a competition in my brain of like who cared about me and who didn't. I would like keep track of like who wished me happy birthday and who sent me this and who sent me that. And I just realized like I was doing this like stupid game in my head, and I can never like live up to my own expectations for what my birthday should look like. And so like for the last couple of years I was trying to like keep it more low key, but I was still asking for things from my partner who was not, giving me the things that I was asking for. And so last year was a big year for me. I got out of that relationship, and then it was my 30th birthday, I went to Big Bear, California by myself in this little cabin, and I made myself the birthday cake that I had been asking for. I just had like a really like low key day. I went for a walk, just took it really easy, made myself a nice meal, talked to some of my friends, and I felt so great. I felt like I did all the things I wanted to do. I didn't feel like I was keeping track of like who was wishing me happy birthday or who was doing this or that for me because I wasn't looking for any of that. And I just had like so much of a better time. And I realized that like I can provide myself with the things that I want on my birthday. I don't have to like ask for them or like expect them from other people. And, if somebody wants to give me a gift, if someone wants to make me a cake, of course, amazing. I'll accept that. That's wonderful. But like, I don't need it. And now I feel like I'm just so much more like complete on my birthday than I used to be.
Your hair looks like the most beautiful sunset like ever.
Thank you.
It just as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, that is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
And I
Appreciate it.
miss you. And
I
thank you
miss
for
you too.
sharing.
Acacia.
Oh, there we go. If I don't click 50,000 times on my mic button, it'll work. I swear. So this year, I think I am going through like a birthday transition. So I used to be like, I have to like spend the entire month celebrating my April birthday. Like it's my birthday month. Like I have to do it. But then like this year, I don't know why, but like for both my birthday and Thor's birthday, like we both like just took it really chill and just like stayed home and did like we went out for supper and then just did like absolutely nothing. And it was the best thing ever. Like it was just great staying at home and just like being together and not having a care in the world. And I'm just like, can I just spend my birthdays like this from now on? Like I never would have thought that that's what I wanted to do on my birthdays.
I'm seriously considering just like playing with the puppies all day. Like I might spend a significant amount of time playing in the puppy pen for my birthday because yes.
Amy B.
Amy.
Good morning, you guys. So, for my birthday, I have always considered my birthday like deeply personal, deeply personal. But I also um, consider it kind of Mother's Day. So, I always like to spend extra time on my birthday with my mom and going to breakfast or brunch and doing, just a little one-on-one time with her, some extra things. After all, she gave birth to me, willingly or not. And so, yeah. But other than that, I absolutely detest it when other people acknowledge my birthday. Like, it's super embarrassing. I hate it. I do not like attention, and it drives me insane because my work feels like they have to say happy birthday and the whole birthday, all the birthdays. And I'm like, could you please just take me out of that? Like, I don't need people to acknowledge my birthday. My existence is not about me, it's about my mom on that day. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Amy. I love that little twist. And I like am seriously considering like giving my mom, like figuring out some kind of gift to give my mom because like she put up with some shit. Like the things that my mama went through and still managed to like still managed to make it through. Ah, I like that. Thank you so much for sharing, Amy. That's great. I can't see who is next.
Oh, let me check the order. We have Mercy was first.
Hello, good morning, everybody. For my birthday, I don't really like anybody acknowledging it either, aside from close friends and family. Coworkers, nope. The general public, also nope. Facebook, no. Which sucks though, because it gets announced on Facebook every year. And then, like, I have this sister who's always pressuring me to say thank you to every single individual person that told me happy birthday on Facebook. I don't like it. So normally for that month, what I do to celebrate it is I kind of just do whatever the hell I want. I'll take myself to a museum, go to like a fun restaurant, and it's not even on the day of, it's like maybe a day after or just whenever I can find the time. Like I'll do something cool for myself. Or there's this one cool like craft shop. It's like not a big name brand craft shop. It's like it's a small locally owned one, and I could get myself fancy yarn there, or like a bit of pottery to paint, and it's great. I'll go over there or something, or get a fancy coffee or something. Something. It's not, I don't know. I don't like it when, oh, I didn't think of that. Somebody, Valerie just told me that you could just change the settings on Facebook so that people can't post on my page. Thank you. Oh, it's so many. And then I have to individually reply to everybody. I don't like that. It's tedious. Thank you, Sky. All right, so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mercy.
We have Chan on next.
So my birthday's on Christmas Eve. So I've never really had a birthday day. You know what I mean? Like when I was a kid, my dad always like tried to separate my birthday from Christmas. Like if someone gave me a birthday/Christmas present, he'd make them wrap it half in birthday paper. Um, but when my parents divorced, when I was like 8, like it kind of shifted. Like our birthdays weren't a big deal to my mom and stepdad, so like it was just never a thing. Like we didn't have birthday parties and stuff, so it kind of just was never a big deal. And then when I got older and had kids, of course, Christmas Eve is kids. It's family stuff. So I don't know. I just kind of never really liked it. It was always kind of more of a pain than it was anything else. I didn't like anyone acknowledging that it was my birthday because it just meant that I was older, and I don't know. But I did about 20 years ago, I did put my foot down and I told my husband that we would no longer be going to his family for Christmas Eve because it was my birthday. And so I was like, that was my thing, was that we would stay at our house. We'd host Christmas Eve for my family. But at least I got to be around like, my family and stuff. But I don't know, listening to you all talk about how great you like the ones who love their birthdays and celebrate it. I'm thinking now that my kids are all adults that maybe it's time to shift my focus about how I look at birthdays and stuff. But yeah, holiday birthdays, they kind of suck. I 0 stars. Do not recommend.
Thank you. I am next. So I have a lot of family members and my friend group growing up. I have a lot of March birthdays around me, and even in this community, we have a lot of March birthdays. So it's always been like a fun time, like a fun month. I like birthdays. I like celebrating myself and other people. I think that some of the things that like have shifted for me is my relationship with the way this Western world thinks of aging. And so I like to say I'm level 42, not like age 42. So just like I leveled up and like kind of welcome the wisdom that I'll learn for the year. Um, and just kind of reflect on like how my perspectives have shifted over the years. Um, and I like to, just have conversations with people like about aging just because of our social conditioning around it. And I just like to intuitively feel out whatever I want to do that day. Sometimes I'm in more of like the social party mood, and some years I've been more quiet. It was interesting, Beth Ann. This year, I did text my mom on my birthday, and I was like, "Congratulations on becoming a mom!" like today. She was like, "Thanks." So that was kind of nice. And the other thing is that's kind of shifted for me is this whole thing about gift giving on birthdays and um, stuff like that. I don't like sometimes I love gift giving. I love gift giving. I love wrapping presents. I love giving gifts to people. But there's something about like having to give them, pick out a gift and give it to them on a day. Like whether it's a holiday or a gift, like I like to just like gift people presents randomly. And so there's something about the expectation of the gift giving part that I don't like. I like just it to be more like random and surprise because it's like an expectation of this gift thing. And there's something that doesn't resonate anymore. But believe me, I like receiving gifts on my birthday. I'm not going to refuse them. I will take the gifts. And I do participate, in that process, especially for younger people. Like they wouldn't understand that process. So absolutely for younger children and things like that. But if I had children of my own, like that might be a conversation that I might have with them about around the whole gift giving thing. So I just think it's interesting. And again, tied very much in the social conditioning stuff. So that's my take. Thank you. Thank Caroline.
Okay. Um, Sometime in my 40s, I don't remember when, I started something with a friend of mine where I just called her up that day and said, "Hey, you want to do lunch? Can you do lunch today?" And she was like, "Sure." We went out to lunch and I said, "I'm paying." And she was like, "Oh, no, I'm going to pay my part." And I said, "No." And she was like, "Well, is there a reason that you asked me to come to lunch? Because it wasn't something we did regularly." And I said, "Yeah, it's my birthday and I wanted to celebrate with somebody." So we made it a tradition for as long as we were friends to, on her birthday, she took me to lunch. And on my birthday, I took us to lunch. And I really liked doing that. I love celebrating my birthday. I love telling people it's my birthday when it's my birthday. I just haven't, since that friendship dissolved, I haven't really had anybody to do that with. So next year, you guys are going to know at least 2 weeks in advance. And I can't take anybody out for my birthday, but you guys are gonna probably spend like all day on the witch's call or something just to celebrate. I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna do it now. My family, we Tom, Tom and whoever's home and I go out to dinner that night. Um, we don't buy each other gifts anymore because uh, I just get what I want, and he just gets what he wants. So that's pretty much how we celebrate. It's changing now because I'm getting a little older. I kind of want something big when I turn 60, but I don't have enough people locally to do something big. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll have to figure that out. Sorry, wrong button.
And we can actually start talking about anything that you guys want to. The birthday thing was just an icebreaker. So, does anyone have anything that they've been thinking about or are curious about or Anything? What do you guys want to talk about? You guys can think about it while I go grab a puppy to snuggle.
Yeah, go ahead. Caroline will be next when you come back.
I actually just have a question for Jenny Lee.
Oh, go for it.
How did that like circle casting work out for your child?
Let me show you something. And this is his body armor.
I love it.
It's hard to see, but it is all different colors.
Huh?
Yep.
And it is his bubble ocean. It is his bubble. And he wears it very close. And when he feels somebody is getting too close to his bubble, he inflates it.
That's amazing.
I love it.
He also is the proud new owner of a yin yang tattoo on his arm and one on his leg made with Sharpie. And he made a yin yang on his window with electrical tape.
Wow.
And he has only wound up in my bed one night since our conversation.
All right. 1 for the witches, 0 for the dark monster at the Walgreens.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, and he told his counselor, because I made him an extra appointment with his counselor, and I said, hey, here's the deal. This is what we're dealing with. And by the time he had his appointment with you, we'd already talked to you guys. So he got on the phone with Donna, and he's like, I'm good. I talked to Mom's witch friends. They figured it out. There's kind of they're kind of smarter with you than some things like that, because monsters aren't really your deal. So yeah, he seems to be feeling much better. He does not think it is gone, but he thinks it is gonna leave him alone and gonna leave us alone, because we took salt and made perimeters at all the windows and all the doors, just like in Supernatural. He was perfectly happy with that.
I am so glad.
Yeah.
I am so glad.
Yeah, the dark circles that he inherited from me under his eyes are nearly normal. Not gone. Nearly normal, though.
Okay. He said dandelion. Oh my goodness.
There's a puppy in the S.A.S.S. Oh my goodness. For those of you who are new here, Jenry has 2 beautiful dogs, and they had puppies on March 16th. And so this is one of the puppies. That's Dandelion. And all of the puppies have found homes with the witches of Bright and Dark. So they have found their familiar witches. So it's, yes, kind of like a celebration time, puppy celebration since March. Floof. Yes, Petra. I think I saw another hand up, but there are no hands up right now. So we're open for questions about anything magic, anything shadow work, anything on your mind at all related to any of those things. Okay, Whit. Who's gonna go first and ask a question? I know you have one. Someone's got something's on your mind. Okay. Kim. Really?
I know. I just got home, so I was trying to transfer back to my computer before I popped in to say anything, but I'm gonna take it back to the birthday stuff because I was driving.
Go for it.
My birthday is also in April, and I kind of had I did hear what Jen said about her birthday, and I kind of have those same feelings around my birthday because growing up, my my family made a big deal about birthdays and everything. And then when I moved away and came out to Oregon, then it was like all of a sudden didn't have any peeps around me, and so then it wasn't really like made a big deal of. And so then I went from like it being this big deal to being not a big deal. And then when I started finding friends around here, then Beltane got in the way of my birthday because that was when we would go camping, and then it was all about that. And my birthday kind of got like shoved off to the like wayside there. So I have feelings around my birthday and this month. Like April is just a weird month for me. And I have that. Like I love getting gifts, but I don't want to have to tell people what I want or what I want them to like do, especially with my family. Um so yeah, that was just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you. I just wanted to offer, I know people have different relationships with their, so I don't like to call people out unless I know they're comfortable with it. But if you need a hype witch for your birthday, I volunteer. You can message me. I will hype you up on your birthday, like no problem. So just let me know.
Can you
And
be my birthday hype person then? I would love for you to be
Yeah.
my birthday hype person, Maria. Let's do this.
yeah, I don't want the responsibility of like being like keeping track, but if you let me know the night before or the day of, I will be your hype witch. I need you to like give me
Nice.
consent that night before, that day of, and then I'm all in if I have that consent. So,
You
and
got
if you're
my consent.
close by, I'm in Massachusetts. I'm available for parties, whatever. I'll fly. I'll travel. We'll travel. Which that travels for birthdays. Beth Ann, I saw your hand up.
Hi again.
What?
Nothing. I'm talking to my friends. Sorry, one second. I kind of have a generational support question. My ex-husband's pretty toxic with my kids, and so we alternate every other week, and I work really, really hard with like emotional intelligence and support, and um, all the stuff around how everyone's accepted, and all of our differences are beautiful, and he is quite the opposite. And I didn't know if anyone had some advice. I'm sorry for the pause. I had to step outside so my kids don't hear me because I try to be very neutral about him in front of them. Um, but some kind of advice to like protect them um, without, like, I've read some things about cord cutting and binding, and I know because we share custody, I can't really do a binding thing on him. But um, I don't know how to protect them from his toxicity. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm like on the fence about do I just let him be who he is and then they see him for who he is? Or do I try to like you know, intervene so that they're not as impacted by him? It's really tough. Because he's a lot like my father. My father's very toxic, and I wish somebody had kind of protected me from him. But um, I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure how to say, like, kind of protect them in a energy way or a boundary way.
Great question. And you don't have to answer, Beth Ann, but it would help me connect a little if I knew the ages, if that was okay with you.
Yeah, hold on one sec. I'm gonna put in headphones. Okay, let's see. There, I have headphones on now. Can you still hear me?
Yes, very clear.
Yes, okay, okay. They are 8, 8, and 10.
Thank you so much. Jen Marie.
I so want to weigh in on this.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
I'm actually teaching a workshop on generational, like connection-based parenting tonight, actually. But this is something that I actually have quite a bit of experience with. Um, and the way that I kind of look at the human experience, and this includes my children as well, is that um, I trust their guides as much as I trust my own, right? And they were born into this like partnership with you and their father. Like as much as you guys aren't together, the nature of that partnership has changed or whatever. That's still um, part of the cocktail that makes them who they are. And we can't control what the other parent does. We can't control the environment that the other parent gives. We can't really um, influence our kids in their perception of their parent either. And especially at this age. And I've found that the most effective way to approach this is for you to model to them um, what clear, authentic communication looks like and how to. Mm, I'm getting so much information that I'm confused. I'm thinking I missed something in the description of what you were talking about when I put the puppy away of your dynamic of
Yeah,
what's going on.
okay. If yeah, go feel free
Oh,
to ask me
sorry.
any questions.
Um, what was your specific question? Do you have a
Um,
specific question?
it was about like, are there ways that I can kind of like maybe energy wise? I don't want to like
Mm,
physically or uh, mentally influence or interfere. Because
mhm,
like you said, I totally get like their relationship with their father is their relationship with their father, and I
mhm.
try to remain very very neutral. I do not. In fact, I'm like outside, so they cannot hear me talking about this,
Right, right,
um, because I recognize those things, and those things are the reason why I left. But that wasn't
right.
their choice. That was my choice for me and for them, because I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was like,
Mhm,
I can't do this anymore. And they need to see a happy parent. They need me to be a happy, well adjusted, grounded person for them, for me to be the best parent or guide or guardian in their life until, they're ready to be on their own. And I realize I'll still be that person for them even when they're adults. But I'm wondering, is there like an energetic way that I can protect them or do a boundary for them. I mean, they are getting better at setting boundaries. There's a lot of ridiculous things that happen. Like
Mhm.
if they're with me and they pick out, say, it's cold and they need a new hoodie, and we go and buy a new hoodie, he does not want them to bring it to his house, even though it is theirs. They
Mhm.
chose it, and I gave it to them, and that is now theirs. I don't consider that something that's for my house only. And but he does
Mhm.
that, which is ridiculous. And then they have this immense amount of anxiety about what they bring. My oldest is like, he's like the little manager of everybody. Like on
Mhm.
Sundays, today they go back to their dads, and we will all be a crying mess because we are every time. And then my oldest will get upset and be like, "Don't cry, because dad will be pissed all week that you were upset that we were leaving mom." And
Mhm.
that breaks my heart for them. And I'm like, is there something I can do without being a physical interference in their relationship to like protect them, or some kind of energetic boundary for them? And I know they have to experience him on their own as he is, because you're right, that partnership's still there. We are their parents, but it is such a black and white difference between the two of us. And um they call my house home and they call his house dad's house. And that hurts for me, that they feel like they're leaving home for a week every other week. And it's really heartbreaking to watch them kind of have to experience this and not do anything.
Right. So there's actually a lot going on here. Um, as with any like situation that involves multiple people, there's going to be a lot going on here. But some of this, there's so much deconstructing that is done with regards to our parenting when we start doing this, looking at our social conditioning thing that we're doing. Um, when we present to our children, this is the way things should be. This is the way life should be. What that does is it makes them feel as if what they are experiencing is wrong or bad, right? Yes, they can have difficult times, they can face challenges, but it is our responsibility as guides for our children to empower them, right? Even at such a young age, in saying, hey, this is the way that our life is looking. There is no should about it. Um, and so there's like be very mindful of the shoulds that we use with our kids, and also um, being honest and real with them, being transparent with them. Who says that we have to have our shit together? Who says that we have to put on this stable face for our kids, that their life is better off if we can pretend that we have our shit together well enough? Because what parent has their shit together? Anyone, raise a hands. Who had a stable environment for their children growing up? Like, it doesn't happen, but we're taught that it should be that way. And that if it isn't stable, if it isn't whatever is considered like stable, that it is bad and that we have failed our children in some way. But the what I have found is the problem lies in the should, not in what is actually happening. Because you can teach resiliency and strength and courage and bravery and tenacity through challenging times. um, you can model that by saying, hey, this is what's going on and this is what I think I'm going to do, but I don't know what's the right decision to make, and actually including them in some of this stuff. When we present to our children that we have everything together and that everything is fine, it gives them the idea that when things are difficult, again, that they're bad. And so they end up avoiding or being avoidant of things that are uncomfortable or difficult. And that just kind of sets them up to this like, oh, if something is difficult or uncomfortable, then something's wrong, or I'm doing something wrong, or I am broken in some way. And when they are going to their father's house, um, if they are feeling insecure or if they feel like they need some kind of tether to home, um, the spell work for this requires a lot more questions. What is it that they need protection from? What is it that will bring them comfort and peace while they go through this difficult thing, right? We want so badly to like, or we think that we can protect our children from uncomfortable things, right? We can protect their emotions. We can't do that. We can't protect our children from making mistakes. We can't protect our children when we're not around, right? But we can encourage them to have better communication so that we know what's going on when we're not around, so that we can help them process difficult things. We can build a relationship with them so that they feel comfortable and confident in sharing with us as well. I know that I've touched on so many different things around this, but like I said, there's a lot going on here. Um, and so that like this is going to require a lot more like questions. Was this helpful, or did you have any questions for me? Clarifying questions.
Yes, that's no, it's definitely helpful. And it is exactly what I've been doing.
Mhm.
Like I said, I try to remain very neutral. I am really, really transparent with my struggles. I will like I live with anxiety, and I have to take medication for it, and I'm totally okay with that. I don't have a stigma about mental health stuff at all, or medication. But when I have an anxiety attack, I tell them like, this is what's happening, this is how I'm feeling, or this is why I reacted this way because my anxiety manifests like this. And I'm a really, well, I won't say I'm really, I strive to be a really, really good communicator and really transparent with them, because children are intelligent and they can
Mhm.
handle it. And I know this because I was the same way at 10. Um, so yeah, so I do all of those things. And I think that what you said has been really reassuring, that I'll stay on this path. I'm on the right path, and I'm doing the right things by them. And um, yes, because I'm very much a like, there's no right and wrong. This is your experience, and however you feel about it is how you feel about it, and that is great. Like, you know, everybody's perception of things are different. Even when they squabble, as children do, I see like, well, you can't tell him he doesn't feel that way, because those are his feelings and you don't know them. So, that's how he perceived that thing that you did. And you maybe didn't intend it that way, but you need to know that people's perceptions are different. Um, so yes, thank you. That's really helpful. It's very reassuring. Like, I'm yeah, I feel like I'm in the right direction. So thank you so much for that. That's a huge weight off my heart. Of
Beth Ann, are you open to a few more weigh-ins?
course.
We have Chana first.
Sorry for the birds. I have parakeets that think they have to talk constantly. Um, so I am a child of divorce, and I am a mother of a blended family. And so I kind of got to see it from both sides. And it wasn't quite as bad as what you're saying. Like, it wasn't like we couldn't take stuff places, but there was definitely, you could always feel that tension. And it was like, as a kid, it felt like every time I went to my dad's house, I was walking into a different world. I had to completely shift my personality. I had to completely shift, like, who I was had to completely change on the drive from one house to the other, back and forth. And that's hard for kids. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, as she's 26 now, but she told me as she got older, she felt the same way because there was such a discrepancy between expectations and things. Um, but the thing that I wish that I had had as a child in that situation, and the thing that I wish that I had figured out in time to do for my daughter in the same situation, um, like, I agree with everything Jen Marie said. Like, there's so much you can do to just make them feel loved and learn to set boundaries and stuff, and having a stable ish, but um parent that they feel safe with on your side. But I wish with all my heart that I had had a neutral place between those two worlds, um to talk about what was going on, to really express how I was feeling, because kids know that their parents are not unbiased. Your children, as safe as a place as you are to them, they know how hard it is for you if they say things about their dad's house and things like that. Like, um, even if you're trying to be loving and stuff, But I think that would have helped me. I mean, that might be something you look into if they're not already like in like have a trusted therapist or an advocate, or somewhere neutral in the middle that's not mom or dad. Because I just always felt like I was just between those two, trying to appease both. And my daughter kind of had the same thing where it was just such the difference. But I don't know, that just looking back on having come at it from both angles, I wish that I'd had a neutral place where I could talk about all the feelings without feeling like I was hurting somebody or tattling on somebody. I don't know if that makes sense, but that was just kind of one of my takeaways from growing up that way and then being the mother in that situation, which is always fun. But anyway.
Yeah, that does. Thank you. That does absolutely make sense. And I do strive to say, like, I won't be upset or my feelings won't be hurt. But I know saying that, doesn't isn't necessarily enough. And I have started to look into, um, like, a therapist or something, so that they have a safe place to talk where it's, you know, um, I don't need to know about it unless there's some kind of danger involved, or something that I do need to be concerned about. Because I do think that would be helpful. My mom passed away when I was little, and I wish I had had that too. So I definitely, identify with what you're saying, that, like, kids need that too. So thank you. That's really, really helpful.
Thank you. I think I'm next. Um, First, I wanted to say, like, how intuitive of you to bring up the conversation, because we are having that workshop tonight. Later, the showing up workshop that will be parenting. Um, the Just kind of when you kind of had brought up binding, and I know you said it was just something you were like researching. Um, for that, for like me personally, because like this whole year and probably the next year we'll be working on my relationship with control. And so binding is something that for me feels a lot like control. And so it wasn't something that like I resonated with. Um, so I just wanted to share like that perspective. And of course, lots of witches have different like thoughts about binding and things like that. Um, but the perspective too I share is also from a child's, who was the way you describe your situation. I can definitely resonate with that for myself, between my mom and my dad. And I was also like going to say something very similar, as Chana did, about like it was always helpful to have people in my life to talk to, and those people ended up, for me it was my aunts that ended up being those people, because sometimes talking to my mom, there was like other complexities about it within the relationship that like just having some other people that like I had as an outlet made a really big difference for me. So if, just wanted to offer that. And the other thing I wanted to say is looking at like how you also need support like during those visits, and if you need someone to hold space for you, or like you also want to talk about your feelings, like that the community is here to support you, like you as well, because this is going to bring this obviously bringing up emotions for them and for you, and so like having you both supported. I just wanted to mention that, and like I'm all, of course, like I definitely am happy to hold space for you anytime. So thank you. And next is Petra. And so of course, Beth Ann, if you want to respond, you can. If there's any, I didn't want to cut you off. If there's anything you want to say.
No, no, I agree with you on the binding thing. Like I had seen um some things on TikTok about it, and I was like, I don't know if that's for me because it seems a bit controlling, and that's kind of not my thing. So, um, yeah, so I've avoided it, but I didn't know if any other people had perspective on doing that. But
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like a good idea to me either. So I'm with you. I'm like, there are things that are out of my control, and all I can do is, um, control our, let our, well, not control, but let our environment be what it is here, because of who I am, and everything outside of that, it's like you send them to school. I can't control what happens at school either. So I mean, there's a limit to what as a parent you can do, and so I think I agree with you. Like finding is not for me. Thank you. So,
And Petra is next.
Hi, Bethan. I was just listening to you talking kind of just about your kiddos and everything, and I think these situations are so tough. Like, I don't have children, but I am the child of divorce, and I was the tiny manager child who, like, for my parents, they lacked boundaries, and so they didn't, it wasn't just like that part, it was also like a deep parentification, and kind of like I was the therapist to the adults. And so there's some like I had to kind of sit back and be like, do I want to respond to this, because this is like brought up some emotions in me. And I think I went and also nerded out and did some research, because I was like, I'm gonna listen and then just do what I normally do, which is be a dork. And I think people have already made this suggestion about therapists, and I think that these situations are like complex and quite nuanced, and I think that having a sorry, my dog is like, I've decided I want to not be laying down, and so she's making all these noises. That having that space for you to process, and also having a space for them to process, can be really supportive. And I think that it can just, the layers of complexity that divorce can bring alongside trying to co-parent with someone who, like, I'm going to use some terms here, and if they don't fit, you're obviously always like welcome to be like, fuck that shit. That is I don't pretend to know your life, but when I was listening to your examples, there were some things that kind of, I guess, pinged for me. And your ex sounds like very emotionally immature, and vindictive and petty are words that I would use. And those things,
yeah,
yeah, those might resonate.
nar- narcissistic maybe as
Yes.
well.
And those things, I mean, like, to be clear, I'm someone who, the internet loves to use the terms narcissistic and kind of associate some of those things more with like things that are like associated with antisocial traits or like sociopathy. And I'm always like, that's not like, they're not monsters, they're emotionally stunted. And that's what makes them actually incredibly harmful, because developmentally, when we don't emotionally develop past certain stages in childhood and we stay completely centrally focused, but then we are an adult and we actually do have power, we can cause great harm. And I always kind of find that as a sticking point, because I'm like, it's helpful to understand that this person like is emotionally unregulated and is emotionally immature, and thus they will act like a spoiled child or someone who like is dysregulated, and that doesn't mean that you need to regulate them. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say at all. But
Yes, no, yeah, spot on.
perfect. I was just like, I want to be really clear about that, because I also feel like, especially in kind of patriarchal relationships, like people who are like conditioned, programmed to perform femininity under a patriarchy are often taught that like your job is to like subserve, appease, and please, and to like mitigate the violent emotions of your partner. And I am someone who's firmly like, absolutely fuck that shit. No. And
Yeah, no, that's exactly, it was like a fourth child. So
yes, exactly. And I think that your experience is very similar to like many women who end up leaving those relationships, or some people who can't and are like, I have an extra, like this is like a perma, I don't know, like toddler child, like it's just, yeah, and can be incredibly challenging. The thing that I really wanted to that really just like stood out for me, and I wanted to like, I don't want to tell you what it means, but it was so like, it was almost like it sounded louder than the rest of everything that you said. For me anyway, was that you were saying that your ex is a lot like your dad, and that you would wish someone would have protected you. And I just wanted to say that, you know, that might be something to explore and something to lean into being curious with, and being like, what does this mean? I think that I'm going to say some controversial shit in this moment, and it's based on my own personal experience. And so, as always, please, if it doesn't resonate, just like chuck it. And if it's really triggering, also, like, I'm not trying to comment on your parenting at all. I think I grew up with, my mom was the narcissist and my dad was uh kind of the caretaker codependent. They like flip those roles. Like, he's much more in touch with his feminine side, and my mom is more like cold and shut down. And if I know, based on what I've like read from attachment parenting and other things, that like if my parents had split up when I was younger, that I probably would have been in a lot better place. But he tried to do like the right thing so many times, and you know, we also grew up in church, so like you're not allowed to get a divorce, those kinds of things. And I think that when I look back on that time, I wish that he had protected me from her. And I think that that's going to look different in every family unit. I do think that it's noteworthy that your older kiddo is like feeling like they need to manage the emotions of the younger ones. And as someone who's like studied a lot about trauma and child development and things like that, I don't want to shame you in this. Like, you haven't done anything wrong. I just think that that's not nothing, and that deserves to be seen through a truthful lens of like, your kiddo who's 10 is already having to like manage the other kid's behavior because of how your ex is, and that might indicate that maybe that's where the like, hey, this actually needs extra support comes in. Or also talking about like,
agree.
yeah, and also talking about like, I don't know, I don't know your life, so I want to be really mindful of that, of like, do they need to go live with him for a week? Like, is this actually like, is the agreement that you have currently the one that is the safest for them moving forward? Are there other adjustments that need to be made? That's also sometimes, as someone who's worked with families and kids and things like that, that's where therapists can come in and be really helpful, to be like, if your kids are in therapy and the therapists are like, actually this like week here, week there isn't actually best for these kiddos' mental health, and this would be more supportive, that can be helpful when dealing with lawyers and courts and things like that. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. That's really helpful because both
Okay, good.
those
I'm a very practical
the
person, but I also want to be
yeah
really
yeah no
mindful of
because with
compassion.
my oldest kind of doing the managing and like it, and it's not just with like my younger kids, he does it with his father as well, and I'm like, you do not have to do that. You are 10. You are not responsible for everybody's emotions and behaviors. And you are a kid. Be a kid, because at 10, I had to be an adult and manage, when my mom passed, manage my father's emotions and my little sister. And so I like my biggest fear for him is that he's in that position now too. So I'm
Yeah,
very cognizant of that and concerned about it. And also, I have been kind of I only communicate with my ex by text, so I have documentation of
good, very smart.
behaviors, and then I have been like seeking legal counsel, and I am going to get them. I've been looking into therapists for them because I think you're right. I don't think it's healthy, mentally healthy for them. And I'm in school to become a therapist for kids, and I volunteer as a CASA. So I'm very much also in that environment with kids and their best interest. And I guess I'm obviously coming to all of you for support because like I need support in this too. I
Yeah,
support others all the time with their children, and I need some help here because I don't know what to do. Because it's one of those situations where I'm like, he's not um, he's not a bad person. It's just these behaviors
yeah.
are not healthy, and um, it's very hard for me to like kind of. I'm like, where do I step in with and because I'm studying this, I see it, um, but I'm in a tough spot to um, directly discuss it with him. So
I would
I'm like,
discussing it with him probably is like a way to like set kerosene on the fire. Would be my
right,
guess.
yeah, yeah,
Just based on the behavior
exactly.
I talked about alone, I'm like, no.
Right. It's like, I'm like, I don't want to make it worse
Yeah.
um, for them. That's my concern is like them because he does not regulate well. So
And it's one of those things when those people have decided to pick that like you are the center of all of the uncomfortable emotions that they feel in their bodies, but it's all
exactly.
fault, right? That like it's you're not going to prove them wrong. That's not like that's not how that works.
Yeah,
They're
I have on my bathroom mirror, like, I am not responsible for how other people feel about me.
yeah.
So I like kind of repeat that to myself daily, like, I don't have control over that.
Hmm.
It's, they're going to have their opinion and that's fine. It's none of my business.
Yeah, I have so much compassion for you, and I think I'm so glad that you brought this here because these are things that these experiences can be so isolating. And when you said there was something that pinged for me when you said he's not a bad person. And the question that I have come to in my life, in my own trauma healing journey, is not a question of bad or good, but is this person safe or not safe? And
Right,
so
right.
I think that if we're going to have binaries about stuff, safe or unsafe is a binary that doesn't make anybody a bad guy or a good guy, but it says like, are you safe for me and my kiddos or not? And that might help you frame things in a way that feels less like you're vilifying him, but more like you're being realistic about like and I think the other thing is that like when they're older and they're going to make their own decisions no matter what, but um something that I think becomes really clear is when you're a child who's grown up in these situations, when you kind of enter young adulthood and you start exploring your own histories with things, you can see all the ways that your parents are fallible, but you also get to see like they will see the ways that in which you have protected them, and there might be ways in this situation that you have to protect them that they are not going to like, now and they will probably thank you for later. And I don't know where this is. I'm just going to be like really honest. I think I'm channeling a little bit because I was just like, I just started talking and I was like, wow, this is like, so I don't know where that comes from. And I just want to acknowledge that like that's a little more forceful than I usually say. So I'm like, that's probably entirely me. And so I just want to nod to that and also say again, you're welcome to say no. And I respect your boundaries for anything that doesn't resonate and doesn't feel good. But I also think that you're doing a hard thing and you're walking in a really difficult space. And I hope that in this time you can find ways to be really compassionate and caring with yourself, um, and gentle even, because I'm sure that this person that you've been with was anything but gentle. And so yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And also, I need to say something. I make everyone cry. So like, don't feel embarrassed at all. I used to say this when I had patients. I would make them bawl all the time. And they were like, I'm like, it's my fault. I should wear a cape because like literally that's my superpower. But I make them cry. So, and also like your tears are welcome and honored in this space. Because I think that
Thank you.
these situations are so hard and they're so isolating and they're designed like a I'm just going to say this, narcissistic abuse is designed to be isolating. And it's not just isolating for you as a person in the relationship and now the co-parent, it's isolating for your kiddos, it's isolating for your ex. Like they're isolated from themselves, which is why they're such a menace. Um, and so I just, so much compassion for you and your whole family. And I'm going to open the floor back up to anybody else. And just thank you for being here and being brave and sharing. We honor you.
Thank you, Petra and Jen Marie.
I remembered to put my hand down and I unmuted myself. Okay. So some of you guys know some of my story. My introduction to the underground witchcraft community in the Pacific Northwest was when I lived at a domestic violence shelter. I fled with my kids when my youngest was barely a year old. And so like in in a lot, though all situations are different in a lot of ways, I get it. I understand what it's like to have to co-parent in that kind of a dynamic, and how to navigate that in the most empowering ways for your children, because they do have to go back and forth, even though like you can't, like I couldn't even communicate with my ex at all. And so it made co-parenting very, very difficult because it was almost like every time we had an interaction, it felt vile, like sticky, like poison. Any kind of interaction just was explosive and it was exhausting. And I didn't have the tools then that I have now. And there are so many things that I could have done better. Right. And right now I have a whole bunch of hindsight because now my kids are grown and I'm able to actually have these conversations with them and ask them, what was this like for you when I chose this, and how could I have done this better? And that's really cool when they grow up and you're able to have again that relationship with them, that you can learn these things. But um I never took the place of like, even though my ex was an addict and violent in a lot of ways and just like really um complicated to be around, I never pushed that he was a bad person. In fact, I always took the place of, he doesn't have the tools that he needs in order to navigate life in a healthy way. He doesn't know any better. Um, and as again, my children are older now, they see that and they're able to have their relationship with their dad that is appropriate for how he is. Um, and they're able to see that contrast. because I model that communication and showing up for them as much as I can, right? Um, and so, like again, it's more about being an example and modeling for them what healthy processing is, what a healthy relationship with their their system is, uh, because that's what gives them the tools to have healthy boundaries in their relationship with their father. Um, so do you see how that is? And then I want to kind of dial back a little bit on something to remember about kids, and I'm going to touch on this tonight in the workshop too, is that our children are better at magic than we are. They are way more connected to their system. They are way more tapped in than we are. And if they experienced trauma young, they're even more so because those sensitivities have been pulled online out of necessity, and so they are very sensitive because they had to be in order to navigate the traumatic environment. Their clairs are on board. So the whole idea that we can actually hide things from our children is fucking foolish. Like that's an illusion because they can tell you're lying. They can tell you're not being honest with them. They can feel it. And you being dishonest or holding something from them bring they because they can feel that there's something different, it's causing cognitive dissonance within them, which brings up like trust issues. And that's what we don't want, right? We want to foster a relationship of trust with our kids, that it is safe for them to communicate with us and to share their experience with us. And so being very like treat them like a fucking mystic because they are. They haven't been exposed to as much of the social conditioning as you have been exposed to that cut you off from your relationship with your system. Um, so we can learn so much from children if we just followed them around and had them like show us how to how to fucking talk to the trees. Uh, our lives would be very different. But I wanted to kind of touch on that as well. That they're again, they know what's going on. Uh, to the best of their understanding. They are filling in blanks when we don't fill it in or when we give them information that gives them that cognitive dissonance. That's like, wait a minute, this isn't right, right? So they start filling in the story themselves. Like, remember when you guys used to fill in the story themselves yourselves? Um, Mom's not being honest about something, it must be this. And because their child brain doesn't have a lot of lived experience, they only go off of what they're exposed on TV or what they're exposed like in their life with other people. So um that is my like um thing of like just honesty and transparency with your kids so much because they're fucking psychic as shit. And I want I know that I'm kind of skipping back, but we're talking about the binding. And I really wanted to kind of touch a little bit on what is a binding and do why do we do bindings? Why would we not want to do bindings? Those kinds of things. Binding was actually one of the first things that I learned from the Wiccan high priestess that I trained under. It's something that is thrown around like it's the like solve all in your life of, oh, if someone's being problematic, just bind them. If you don't like how someone is behaving, just bind them. If you don't agree with how they're navigating life, bind them, right? And that it's thrown around. Yeah, it's thrown around like it's this, like, of course, this is what witches do, but it's not really talked about what is actually going on there. When you are binding someone, you are saying that you know better for them than they do, and that their guides do, right? And that it's it's projecting that control onto them that, is why they got to where they are in the first place. So I don't do bindings. I don't think I've ever really done a binding because of how it just kind of didn't really like sit right with me. Um and also because there are so many more effective ways to navigate a situation that would generally require like a binding. And as a connection based witch, like I use my lived experience for expansion to learn and to grow. And if I went around like controlling everything that kind of like rubbed me wrong, um, like there isn't any growth or expansion from that. I'm just like either ignoring it or pushing it away or denying it or whatever. Um, I tend to if someone is presenting in a way that I'm like, oh, well, I should bind them, which again doesn't really cross my mind. That to me is a trigger of like why am I wanting to control this situation? What am I afraid of? What is the danger here? I go into asking myself things about my system. What is this reaction within me? And then going into how can I support my system to process this, or is this a boundary thing? Do I need to have better boundaries with this person? Which is usually like the number one uh thing, is that instead of setting healthy boundaries, people are like, I'm going to just bind them. Um so that is binding is so much more complicated than what gets thrown around on like social media. And I say this all the time, but with witchcraft, um, ask why. Ask why and how something works. And if a witch that is telling you or advising you to bind someone can't tell you how the binding works and why, then like what's going on there, right? So that is another little like thing. Does anyone have any questions? I jumped around on a lot of things, like a lot of things.
Jana.
Okay, since you talked about bindings, and I'm firmly in the camp that they are wrong at this point, what how do they work? Because we we've talked about like magic only works on people if they, or like hexes, curses, they only work if the person allows them to, I guess. I mean, do bindings fall into that category? And so would a I don't know. I have lots of questions. New broom. Like if it's would a binding even work on somebody who didn't know you were doing it to them? I mean, clearly in my case, yes, but would it, like, could they break it themselves? I don't know. It doesn't seem like effective magic unless it actually can be held. So how do they now I'm just like, from a scientific point of view, like, how do they work? Why do they work? And that that I want to know the science, the how and the why.
I love how excited Maria got about this. Like, this is super great. Um, and I want to be really clear when I say this is my perspective. Every witch you talk to is going to have a different perspective because they've had different experiences with these things, and they've had different teachers. Um, Bindings, from my understanding, belief is a powerful thing. And that belief uh, is in both parties, right? So the stronger the witch believes in the binding, the more powerful it is. Bonus points if that person believes that they are bound as well, right? And oftentimes a witch will bind someone and say that they have bound that person because it sinks it deeper. It's like driving it in deeper. The Granted, a lot of practitioners aren't aware that this is the source of the power of a binding comes from not just the person casting, but the person that it's casted upon. And belief is a very strong thing with that. So, for instance, and yes, you can absolutely undo a binding that is put on you by someone else. And you can get to the point in your practice that you cannot be bound, also, that you cannot be cursed, also. It's about your relationship with those energies and your understanding of those energies as well. Did this answer your question?
Sort of.
Sort of. Okay. So, and it also depends on what you're binding, right? Uh, and please, if anybody wants to chime in on their understanding of bindings and how they work, please, please, please raise your hand and chime in on this as well. I'm trying to think of a really good analogy as what's going on. Um, why am I drawing a blank with the analogies? I'm usually like so good at them and they're like right on.
It's
Shauna,
my ancestor.
Would it help if you gave Jen Marie more context? I don't know if you guys discussed it last night, but you put it in, put your issue in generational support, and maybe if you kind of explain where you're coming from, Jen Marie can help you with that.
Is it what we've discussed before, Jenna?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I keep telling them to take a flying leap, that they don't get to control me out of fear.
Mm-hmm.
But they are really, really determined. And I think it's because there are, like, it's a whole bloodline worth.
And some of what's going on in your instance is a boundaries issue, because you believe they have more influence on you than they actually do. And it's your belief that they have say in your lived experience that is giving them power and influence over your lived experience. You are the one that is incarnated. You are the one that is embodied and living right now. You are the ultimate decision maker in how you navigate your lived experience, what happens in your life. They, I suspect the reason they are so prominent with you is it's a part of your gifting, to be able to connect to that like plane. And so because of their connection to you, it's coming through stronger. But I bet if you lean into um, this feeling signature that you have when you're communicating with them, I bet that you'll be able to anyway tap into other things. So the binding that you are talking about is exactly what I'm talking about too. The only reason there's any power in that is because you believe it. You believe that they can block you, and you believe that they can influence you, or that they have sway, and they do not unless you give it to them.
I agree. But my hang up on this is that I have a sister who has full use of, I didn't even know about it. Like, we're in our 40s and I didn't know about it until like a few months ago. Like, apparently she's been terrorized her entire life by spirit trying to communicate with her. I'm not really sure if it's a clairaudient or I know she hears things. She's like a super, super like empath. And she says it's not too bad, except when she's ignoring him and they start touching her. Um, but the thing I don't understand is my ancestors keep saying it's for my protection, but they didn't protect my sister because she has literally been scared for 45 years. And so, yes, I agree that a lot of it right now is because I'm like, oh, yeah, like, because someone said, oh, this is what it is. But I know it's been influencing me, like, it's been in place my whole life. And they are aware of it. I just don't know why me, but not my sister. Like, especially if it was protection, why would they protect me and not her? That I think that's rude. Does that make sense? Like
It
if
totally
it was
is.
just me, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But I'm not understanding why.
And oh my God, you're either gonna love me or hate me with this. It's because it's not your business to understand the relationship between your sister and her giftings and her connection to divinity. And it has nothing to do with your relationship with your giftings and divinity and magic. And when we try to compare, that's where it gets really confusing because our paths are supposed to be wildly different. Our paths are supposed to um, do our own thing, right? And where did you get the information that you were bound or that your ancestors bound you?
I I've been told that I'm
Right.
blocked by multiple like psychic intuitive friend, like a friend is one of them, and
Mhm.
somebody online I just mentioned I can't like visualize, and she's like, your spirit guides are saying that you're doing this to yourself, you're blocked. So I went looking for answers.
Mhm.
I went looking at sources going, okay, well, if I'm blocked, how do I unblock? How do I, where is it blocked? How do I fix this? And I went to one and she looked at me very confused when I said, I'm feeling some energetic blocks. I want to remove those. I'd like to level up. And she looked really confused and she goes, you didn't, she's like, they're telling you did this to yourself. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, that's not it. Like, you have some ancestors, it's a binding. She said, what I'm seeing is a
Mhm.
binding that was put in place on you by ancestors that then she's like, you should probably go check into your genealogy. And then these same ancestors very much confirmed it to my sister. They were like, they are terrified of me exploring this. They're perfectly happy if I want to go do yoga and play with herbs, but they don't
Mhm.
want me touching witchcraft at all, like not even a little bit. They're kind of bitchy. I mean, I love them,
And
but like they're kind of bitchy.
right. So what I'm getting pinged about is that all the information that you need is within you. And there's this idea that we need to go to someone else who knows better. Oh, they're psychic. They'll know more than what I do. They'll be tapped in better than I am because they have more experience. And I'm calling the biggest bullshit red flag on that because that's not true. You know more than anyone else about your path. You are more tapped in than you can possibly imagine. And yes, you are as blocked as all of the rest of us have been before we started doing shadow work and started deconstructing because we're blocked because we were taught to turn away. We were taught to ignore our giftings or taught that they were dangerous or problematic in some way. We're taught that by our parents and their parents and their parents. Our ancestors passed this down. This idea that you are wrong or dangerous or bad because you are connected to magic. That is an ancestral curse. That is what a lot of, and that's why any psychic can say, you're bound, you're blocked. Well, we all are. We're all bound and blocked until we actually do the work to remove those. And we remove them within us. It's not something that someone else can do. There's no magic pill or magic spell that's going to unblock us. It's the way that actual our brains work. It's a scientific, it's a neuroscience thing. It's not a, you know, bippity boppity boo, you are now unbound kind of a situation. And that's with, again, all of us. All of us are this way. So telling someone that they are bound or cursed is like a blanket statement that a lot of people that are psychic or readers will use because it's true for everyone. And how you take that is where like power is, how you interpret that or how they help you through that also. Um, and I love that your guides have brought you to the resource center in the way that they have, because you will have help in undoing and making sense of this and learning how to listen to yourself. Because when you're communicating with your sister, they're communicating through their lens, through the way that they see or perceive these dynamics. And that is based on their lived experience, right? You and what's going on with you is not the same. And you are not going to perceive it through the same lens as your sister does. Any kind of readings that we as magical practitioners get, we interpret them through our own lens, right? And so it's tinged, it's tainted with our perspective. And that's why taking readings with a grain of salt, right? Because just because they're saying it doesn't make it truth. Um, it makes it their perspective or their interpretation. A lot of times, what we're receiving are feeling signatures that we then have to interpret, or images that we then have to interpret, right? So there's so much wiggle room there. So I'll let someone else chime in too if they want to.
Think that I'm next. Um, I love that you kind of like, made the comment about science, like you like kind of made the connection that there's like scientific things also that's involved with witchcraft. Like some of it, there's a lot of stuff that is science based. Um, this is like psychology too, and magic. So from like my perspective, the reason why this might feel like strong to you is because someone said that to you when you believed them. So you give it the power. Like the power is within you. So you give that the binding, the power because you believe it. Now, there may be some shadow work there also to like uncover the layers of why that is. Um and but when you no longer believe it, then that is no longer true. Um everyone has levels of communication. Some people just practice it. And so, like, when you go to a reader, it's something that they practice a lot so they can tune in maybe a little bit faster and they've already developed their language and they've had time to practice that. And that to me is the only difference. It's not that someone can do it or can't do it. We all have giftings in one way or the other. And it's just like how you choose to engage with them in this lived experience and how you want to navigate with them. Um, and I am like I am happy you're here too, like because I think I'm excited to see like how you unpack this. But it's you doing it, you're doing it, we're not doing it, we're just like your support people, like we're all Diana Ross, and we're this like you're Diana Ross and we're the Supremes like in each of our situations, right? You're your own, you're the star and we're the Supremes, and I'm Diana Ross in my lived experience, and You all are my Supremes, and I love Diana Ross, so that's why I use that. You know, and so there's so much like within you, but there's just the reason why we are all here together and resonate, because we do resonate with the connection based magic. And there's like there's some inner knowing that the shadow work and the deconstruction is like a really important piece to it. And we all resonate with that on some level, or else like we all wouldn't be here together, you know. And you know, your sister, like, I don't know her, you know, she's I agree with Jen Marie, like it is her kind of own experience. And um it's you know, it's interesting, and I can understand that, you know, there's a lot out there about bloodlines and, you know, this and that, you know. And like I said, it just comes back to really what you believe and what you give power to. And like, you know, there definitely are witches that have been passed down information, um and that can fall under a lot of different types of traditions in the way that you learn magic and in the way information gets passed down to us. But a witch that doesn't have that is no less powerful than a witch that does have like a bloodline. You know, it's all how you navigate it within this lived experience. And you are the one that's here, and now you have a lot like choices, you know, like which, you know, like which path do you know, do you want to take? But like, and I also recognize that unpacking this is a lot too. And like, it will take a lot of like conversations. It won't happen in a day. And I know Millie wants to weigh in, and I saw Jen Marie's hand go up. And Millie, thank you for your patience. And to just like a 10-minute, I'm the moderator today and I'm okay with going a little over, but we do have like about 10-20 minutes left. And so Millie.
Hi. I don't know your story. I haven't heard it before, but all I'd like to share is that you know, there was a lot of control over women. Our ancestors created code words to keep the younger generation safe from insane asylums that were created to control women. And you know, there's a lot of patriarchy, and so a lot of women pass down code words that, you know, we really have to work through to understand, that were intended to control our behavior. Um, and so some of the bindings I think that people talk about from ancestors were really a lot of it was that it was messages to try to keep us safe as women.
No, I definitely like that's their thing. They keep saying it's protective. Like that keeps coming through. It's protection. It's protection. It's protection. So it's not like they're not malicious. I mean, I actually think in this case, Maria, I think the bloodline thing is a hindrance, not a help, because it comes with the trauma. It comes with having a line that goes back generations and generations of women who were treated very, very poorly, that were in danger, you know, for centuries. And it all, I think it builds up, and I think so. I don't think it's an advantage. I think it's definitely a handicap, I guess, of more than anything. But
Could it
yeah,
could it be that it feels like a handicap because you don't understand your own power yet? And when you really step into your own power and understand it, then you won't need that protection anymore?
yeah, possibly. I think they're just, like I said, they're not malicious. They're protective. And all I really know, like I said, is what I've heard from others, because I really don't have my own connection. It's kind of funny. I do, if I'm in proximity to someone else who has stronger abilities or more awareness of it, like more control of it. And then it'll start to, like, I have some things that'll ramp up and that'll confirm it. But all my sister would tell me about it is they did something that got out of control, and it scared them. And so they all converted to Christianity and Mormonism. And I guess that's when the binding got put in place. I'm sure it's not just me. I'm sure it actually probably flows down the line. Like I'm sure it's not me specifically, except apparently my sister got skipped in that. But I think it's because she's more timid. She's personality wise, I think she keeps herself in check, and so they don't worry too much about what she'll do. Whereas I've always been a little more drawn to the witchy side of it, and so I think they just every time I start to get near it, they would step in and push me away from it. So I mean, I know, like I said, I know it's protective, but now I'm just annoyed as hell about it because I'm tired of like feeling like I'm being controlled by my crazy Mormon ancestors who went and joined a freaking cult 6-7 generations ago. And anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. So now it's really that I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and I'm just wanting it gone because I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with them. It's kind of, I don't know if that makes sense, but
How are you doing? Are you okay with more weigh-ins?
yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. Marie is next.
Okay, Rufio and Stella just walked into the room and are looking at me like they need something. So I'm going to be very brief about it. Sorry if Stella barks at me. It's probably going to happen any moment now. I want to be very, very clear that I am not saying that this is all in your head. I'm not saying that you're making it up or doing this to yourself or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that, and I don't want it to come across that way. And at the same time, uh, you have the power in this dynamic. And the more you allow them to push you around, the more that you are actually giving them access to your lived experience. That's a choice, right? And the more awareness you're going to get over the course of the next few months, the more that's going to become a choice because um, you mm, yes, I think that that's where that is. Um, I know that you're going to get through this, and I know that that is in your future. You're already starting to loosen those chains. You're already doing this work, so I am not worried or concerned about you. I don't have any fear that you're going to be bound for the rest of your life or that you're going to continue to like need to uh, you will not continue to value other people's readings over your own. But I also want to really push in there that you are tapped in, like you are. You just don't recognize it as being tapped in because it's so natural to you that you are thinking that it's something else. A lot of times we get really confused between physical sensations, energetic readings, and emotions. We don't really know how to differentiate between these things. And because we haven't really explored them, we assume that, oh, I'm not getting any readings or I'm not, but you are. But you're interpreting it as anxiety, right? Do you see what I mean? So we interpret it as something else when it's actually this other thing, and we just haven't cultivated that relationship with it yet. Does that make sense? And so it's more like being more mindful of the words that you use because you are tapped in. Um, and this, a lot of what you will be experiencing is leaning into yourself and not trying, but being. So you don't need to try to read or try to receive. It's a part of your nature and a part of how you navigate the human experience just as much as like breathing or your heart beating. Your energetic body is there too. You're just like not that flow of communication isn't clear yet. Um, but it's coming. You're super close, and this is going to be a lot of fun to watch you blossom or come into your own. I know that I'm gonna stop and let someone else weigh in. I love you guys.
So we have Petra and then Mel, and then that will be it for today, but we'll get those two weigh-ins. So Petra, go ahead.
Hi, Jenna. I put it in the chat, but I just wanted to say, because you keep saying that they're saying that they're protecting you from something. And if we're going to talk about like connection based magic and like relational magic and these kinds of things, my interest was just basically like, have you tried to connect with them about what they're protecting you from? I think sometimes in these things with ancestors, we can be like, this is what I want. And I agree with everything that Jen Maria said, and I do believe in the power of your mind and in the things that we accept. I'm someone who like from a very young age, even in church, was very much like, you know, people would be like, Satan's gonna get you. And I was like, I'm sorry, the cross, the whole thing, I'm good. Like I was like that person where I was just like, spit spot, we're done. Like, what are you talking about? I don't know how to still protect myself from anything. And even in other ways. So I don't have that similar experience of being bound, but I do have experiences of ancestors and working with them and being in relationship to them, and that their perspectives might be different, but that there's richness in cultivating those relationships and trying to understand where they're coming from. And I can also I have so much compassion for your frustration, because it's so valid, of being like, I just want to be done. And I also I want to affirm what Jen Marie said about that this is not the way that it will always be, and that you are in a process of growing and understanding yourself and moving forward in your path and learning more about yourself and about, you know, maybe these connections as well. So I just wanted to share that and reflect that and validate also your emotional response to the situation, because I'm sure it's very frustrating, and so I think that's important to acknowledge. And that's it.
And to answer your question, what are they trying to protect me from? I have asked, and I've talked to my sister a little, because she says when she's around me, the connection like ramps up quite a bit. And there's definitely one of these ancestors that is my guide, because she says she only really feels her around when she's talking to me. But my sister comes from that same fear space that they do, if that makes sense. And so she's fully in support of them keeping me, you know, locked down, because, you know, she's my younger sister, but still that's her thing. But what we've kind of figured out, maybe like my gut feeling at the risk of grandiose delusions, the difference is that my sister is more of a receiver. So she's more like highly empathic, and so she gets information coming in and gets overwhelmed, but seems to have, hey, you, that was rude. She seems to have less ability to direct outward, whereas mine seems to be more my, I don't know, abilities, my affinity for it seems to be more outwardly manifesting as opposed to incoming, if that makes sense. And so growing up untrained in a very, you know, high demand religion where this kind of stuff wasn't, you know, we didn't even talk about it. And when we did, it was like, oh, that's bad, that's evil type of thing.
Yeah.
My gut feeling tells me that left to my own devices, I would have caused myself, because I was going looking for it when they didn't redirect me
Mm.
because I'm naturally drawn to it and she's not.
Yeah.
And so the gut feeling is they're protecting me because I could have caused a lot of harm growing up in the environment that I did, and with my temperament and um, the fact that I'm seem to be more of a like outward
Mm-hmm.
manifesting than receiving. I don't know. Like we don't talk about it very much because she's not a big fan, and so I'm kind of left muddling along, even though I know darn well that I could sit down with her and get a whole lot of answers out of
Mm-hmm.
them very quickly if she was willing. But I don't know. Like I said, so I have asked. I've tried figuring out, but they're just not being super forthcoming. So we're just kind of like going off of, kind of gut feelings and history, I guess.
Yeah. I would not downplay those gut feelings. Just um, as someone who, for me, the impact of my body on my practice and how that manifests and what that looks like has been really profound. And my body was my first tool. So I just like I think that in our Western society we focus a lot on the mind, and I do think the mind is important, but you guys know that I'm very like nervous system based, and the truth of the matter is that our body contains like the wisdom of our genetics, but going back before these ancestors, before these people, all the way back through the eons. And so um maybe that also, I just felt like that needed to be shared, that there's something to be explored there and to be cultivated there, because um yeah, and that's where it just ended. Sorry, I thought that felt a little bit like a bit of a channely pingy typey thingy. I was just like bleh, and I was like okay, and then it just cut off. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and I also want to be mindful of Maria's time as well, so I will let whoever wants to share next share.
Thanks, Petra. And Mel will be our final weigh-in for the day.
I'll
Till
be
next.
quick, Maria.
Sure.
Actually, we don't know each other much, Chana, but I'm also in your room, and I have like another perspective on what you're sharing, which is that most of us as new brooms, we come in with all sorts of blockages. It might not be bindings, but we're definitely blocked. And as a new broom who is slowly removing those blocks, I can tell you I am freaking glad that it was not like a breaking the damn thing, because I am overwhelmed, clumsy. It's difficult to understand everything that's happening, it's stuff on the nervous system. So I am freaking glad that it's not like an open the door and everything floods in. And Maria often says that our best course of action when we're in the foundation program is to just follow the program. Like every month we do some shadow work, and the shadow work, it works. It sucks. It really sucks, but it works. It's not easy. But as we're doing the shadow work, we uncover those blocks and we remove those threads that block us and that bind us. And I'm so not scared for you. Like, it, I know it pisses you off and it's frustrating feeling like you don't have control over it. But I think that by going through the motion, you're already showing up. You're already stepping in your power. Like, I think that by just going through the motion of the shadow work, and you'll remove whatever is blocking you one thread at a time. And it might be better this way because it can be overwhelming and confusing when odd clairs and our powers start coming in. So that was just my different perspective on it. But I really do understand. Well, no, I don't understand, but I have compassion for what you're feeling and how you're feeling blocked and controlled. So sorry you have to go through that, but it will be our pleasure to help you figure all that out. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mel. So we are wrapping it up. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. As Jen Marie said, we do have a showing up workshop tonight. 6 p.m. Pacific. That would be 7 Mountain, 8 Central, 9 Eastern. And this showing up, it's usually an intuitively led workshop. It is an additional workshop if you like. There are plenty of spaces available if you still want to join us. And this tonight is going to have like a parenting generational focus. So if that interests you, we'll be on later. And you can get your space through the website, through the live workshops, or just message support at Bright and Dark if you need any help with that or anything else. You can always email support at Bright and Dark, as well as reach out to your hearth keeper. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great day.